So if you go to prisma.ourcommunity, what is it? ourcommunitycal.org?
Yeah. It's .com, right?
Okay, so that's not working. And then that's a domain that's we registered, that Lambda registered.
Yeah, we set up the name servers last time, Bernie.
Okay, so all right, because I'm not seeing it. It's ourcommunitycal.com. Can you just
Yes.
yeah. Okay, it is there. Okay. And that's what's hosted in Amplify, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm not, oh, there we go. So if you go to prisma.ourcommunitycal.com, that's your production Prisma environment. Yep. And then apollo.ourcommunitycal.com is your production Apollo environment. Okay, so production is done. Looks like you guys are good to go with production. So was this meeting to set up a stage environment?
Well, I think we don't fully understand. So is CI set or CD set up for this AWS Cloudformation, or do we have to push it again from the command line?
You have to push it from the command line. Yeah, there is no continuous delivery for this.
Okay, and then, yep, so basically we have a very rudimentary understanding of that.
Okay.
But we do have the old recording. But the other thing is we understood that the staging and production environment both plug into the single network CloudFormation.
Yep.
And, we need to put different environmental variables on the staging environment.
Yep.
And we thought we would be able to benefit from some guidance while we were trying to launch
definitely.
that.
No, so you do want to create a staging environment then?
Yes, we need to.
Okay. So take and just duplicate that aws.communitycolor.production environment. We have to copy paste it, yeah. I think anywhere in there, yeah. Maybe down the blank area.
Yeah.
Do paste, yep. And then rename that aws.communitycalendar.stage. Is there, I think let's say there's space there. Okay, and save that. And then that environment name on line 1 is going to be staging. And then the rest you can leave the same, just so go ahead and save that. And then here's where it kind of gets tricky because you hard-coded production in your .env file. So if you go, you can either go back to your .env file and change it, or just set it on the command line depending on which environment you're looking to update. I usually try and leave them, at least leave that out of my environment. So if you go back to environment and get rid of line 32. Yep. And then save that. And then when you're working, you can do, I would just hit Control-C on your command there, since we don't want to deploy anything to production. You just need to export that variable. So do export, and then environment name, all caps. And then equals staging. Yep, and then if you run that, it should tell you that it is going to use, and then do the make AWS deploy env, AWS dash deploy dash env.
Sorry, 1 second. Before we do this, Rachel, I see you're looking at the latest Apollo image in your AWS settings, but have you pushed the image up to latest yet, or is it still just pushed up to Rachel?
Yeah, it's pushed up to my tag.
Okay, yeah, so we need to do that.
You can leave it for latest now because we know that's out there, right? Because we know there's one out there that's latest, right? Because that's what you have in production.
Well, the latest one is the original boilerplate, like with no data model, no
That's fine. Yeah, because you can change it afterwards. So we'll get the whole thing done, and then we'll change it, and then you can rerun it, and it'll update it.
Okay.
Yep. So go ahead and run that. Yep. Go ahead and continue. And now this is going to create a new set of DNS that's going to be staging.ourcommunitycal.com. So then your new environments will be prisma.staging.ourcommunitycal.com and apollo.staging.ourcommunitycal.com for your staging environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you can do is once you get the tag that you want to use for staging pushed up, you can just switch the tag and then rerun AWS deploy env, and it'll just update that one piece and relaunch everything.
Okay.
So this is just to get all the infrastructure up and running, and then you can always tweak it later and just rerun that. And it'll, when you rerun a CloudFormation template, it diffs it basically between the template and your actual infrastructure, and then it just updates what changed.
Sweet.
So this will take a little while, but it'll be a lot quicker. So if you go to, let's go to your console, your AWS console in your browser, because I think we may need to do one manual button push. So if you click on that in progress, and then click on events. All right, so this is just going, this is creating the namespaces. This one should just go pretty quick, depending on how slow AWS is. You might have to hit that refresh button to get the latest.
I think the other question we wanted to run by you, Bernie, was our current strategy for testing we inherited from the old repo, which was basically a different Docker compose.yaml that generated a specific, Prisma testing service with an empty database, because we wanted to start and end all the tests from an empty database. And then just, it would run the server, on the local machine, not in a container. And then you could just run tests like that. But we don't know if that's going to map well onto this, or how you would recommend doing unit and integration tests for our Apollo server.
You should never need a database when you're doing testing. Okay. Or you should never have the service running when you're testing. So what you want to do is you want to use mocking to mock the database, so that doesn't become a dependency of your tests. And then you want to, especially when you're doing unit testing, you want to be able to reduce all the dependencies on any systems. You just want to test like specific code.
Yeah.
So there is, I do have an example of doing unit testing of like your resolvers. Prisma, you don't need to test because there's no code, your code's not in there. It's just Apollo. So really just your Apollo resolvers that you need to test. And I've got an example of how to do that without requiring a database.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'd love to see the unit testing for the Apollo resolvers. That'd be really helpful.
Yep.
When we had set up the database before, it was for like integration tests, and it was like just running the full life cycle of passing stuff from the Apollo service to the Prisma service into the database and getting it back as an integration test. And basically you're saying you wouldn't recommend writing integration tests like that.
You can, but you really want to start with unit tests. Unit tests are going to give you like the most bang for the buck. Integration tests are good, and they give you sort of a very high level, like, but ultimately integration tests tend to be very narrow in what they test, because you can't get a lot of detail in the paths that you're taking through your code. Whereas with integration tests, that's where you get all the detail and you can get into all the nooks and crannies and
Yeah.
test with lots of different, things. So generally, you should start with unit tests, and then once you get good coverage on your unit tests, you should move to integration tests.
That makes a lot of sense. I think the reason why we had done the integration tests last time was just because for whatever reason they made more sense.
They're easier to usually they're easier. But the problem is you then have to have a running environment, which is something that you can't necessarily easily do when you're running in a CI server. So,
yeah. All of the work went into setting up the setup and tear down for the testing environment for the task, and then create an event. And it's like, yeah, the event's in there. So I'd be super down to shift gear to unit testing, since especially for me, that's an area I'm a weaker in. And I think for the team, it would let us worry less about setting up these testing environments and worry more about, testing and test coverage.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you one this week. I just have to make sure it's up to date. In Prismatopia, it basically shows you again, like how to do the mocking for stuff. I did this for a couple other teams, and we can kind of walk through that. But I'll make sure all the code is up to date with the latest, and then I'll send you a link.
Thank you so much, Bernie.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let's see, certificate. So this is where you might get stuck. If you click on that, and then go to services. And go to certificate. Just type certificate, or it's on the left-hand side there too. Yeah. And then click on where the drop down for staging, and then scroll down a bit. There's another little triangle there in the middle under domain.
The domain.
Up right there. Yep. Open that up and just hit create record in Route 53. Yep. All right, and then give that a minute. Actually, click refresh on that up in the upper right-hand corner there. Yep. All right, so that's going to be pending, and that hopefully will go through relatively quickly. And then I think that should be the only things you really need to do manually. Now it's just a matter of waiting for it to spin everything up and kind of continue down the path. So this will probably take another like 10, 15 minutes. Once it hits a database, that usually takes a little while. It usually takes like 10 minutes. The rest of it should hopefully go pretty quick. And I think we fixed the permissions issues last time, so hopefully you won't hit any permissions issues. If you got this far, you probably should be pretty good. So if you go back to Cloudformation, you can just sit and refresh those, and hopefully that staging certificate will go through in a few minutes. But this should be good. And then once this is done, then you'll have two more endpoints. You'll have your Prisma.staging and your Apollo.staging. And then what you can do is the same thing. Is everything is driven off of all of the AWS make commands, like AWS Prisma deploy, etc. Push, AWS Apollo service update is all based on those two environment variables, the application name and the environment name. And because everything that is built is kind of named with those, and so it knows where to find everything based on those names. So as long as you have those names set in your environment, it will know which environment you're talking about when you do this AWS. So if you want to, when this is done, you're going to want to deploy your data model. So you do AWS Prisma deploy, and that will deploy to this environment. And it'll always warn you before it runs, so you can double check you're actually working on the right environment. So just double check that. And then, and then like I said, when you want to change the tag, just go into your environment. For that, it's aws.communitycal.com or communitycalendar.staging, and then change the tag that you want to use, and then rerun the AWS deploy env, and that will update the task definition for that service to pull from that. And then that'll also automatically cycle it.
Sweet.
All right. So just ping me if you guys had any errors. And oh, that one's done. Cool. All right. So if you hit the refresh on the left, it's doing the network pieces now. So yeah, it looks like you guys are moving. So like I said, 10, 15 minutes, you should have your staging environment ready to go.
Sweet.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Bernie.
No worries. Just ping me if you have any issues. Otherwise, I'll send you a link as soon as I get that that code sorted out in the right place, and then you guys will have a good, hopefully good solid example. You might need I can meet with you guys quick to sort of walk you through it, but because it's a little bit complex with the mocking and everything. But once you get the hang of it, it's basically rinse and repeat for all your resolvers. You just keep doing the same thing and tune it to the business logic and stuff. So it's pretty straightforward.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, no worries. See you guys.
Yeah.